Classical Conversation Studios presents Refining Rhetoric with CEO Robert Bortins, a podcast where faith, business, politics, and classical education meet. Join us as we use the classical tools of rhetoric to seek truth in every arena of life.
Hello and welcome. This is Robert Bortins, and I'm excited to be with you today for episode 1 of my new podcast. This podcast is going to be unique, where I am going to share a little bit about myself, this show and purpose, and what to expect from future episodes. This episode is unlike any other, as I will not be interviewing anyone, but we have a great list of guests on upcoming shows. So let's jump in. Why another show and what will you learn? Now, this show is going to focus on thought leaders within the Christian community and how they are impacting the world and their walk with God. I want this show to not shy away from controversial topics, but to address them in a positive manner. In our hyper-partisan gaslighting culture with social media and talk shows, we want to rise above that noise and hear from brave men and women who love the Lord and how they're stewarding their talents that the Lord has given them. I want to be clear, the opinions of the guests are their own. My opinions are my own, and we're going to have a dialogue, and I might ask questions that I don't necessarily believe in the premise of them, but I want to hear what they have to say about them, and vice versa. One of the things that we'll be focusing on in this show is practicing the 15 tools of learning that we use for our K through college credit curriculum that we teach to families. And so those are the 5 core habits, which we focus on in our foundations program, the 5 common topics, which is in our challenge program, and the 5 canons of rhetoric, which is also in our challenge program. And of course, once you learn these tools, you'll be using them throughout your life, even outside of school. So those 5 core habits are naming, attending, memorizing, expressing, and storytelling. The 5 common topics of the dialectic are definition, comparison, relationship, circumstance, and testimony. And the 5 canons of rhetoric are memory, invention, arrangement, style, and delivery. And so this is a journey, and I know that we are not going to all know how to use these tools all at once, and that's okay. I'm starting my own homeschool journey, and I'll tell you a little bit about my past experience, but I have 3 children, currently 7 and under. I'm just a new homeschooling dad. I haven't had decades of experience like my mom or curriculum developers. So we're going to be practicing and learning these tools together. And at the end of my episodes, I hope to go over some of the tools that were used in the episode so we can see how these 15 tools can be used in conversation. I want everyone to know just a little bit about Classical Conversations. We have a group of dedicated CC moms and dads and former students that work on our curriculum to make sure you are gaining from their experience and that you as parents are able to educate your children in a way you may not have been educated. That's using the classical model in these 15 tools. So I want to tell you a little bit about my background story and my view on life and how I got to where I am today. First of all, I'll let you know that I was homeschooled through high school. My mom didn't necessarily have the Classical Conversations curriculum developed for most of my schooling, and it was started in 1997 in our basement with 10 other students. So I did not get a foundations and essentials program education, but just a little bit of the challenge program. I want you to know about Schoolhouse Rocked, the Homeschool Revolution. It is a feature-length documentary that will break down common misconceptions about homeschooling, empower new families to homeschool, and equip those already homeschooling to do it with excellence. The film follows host Yvette Hampton as she travels the country with her family, meeting other homeschoolers and educational experts, including yours truly, to learn the secrets of successfully homeschooling and tell the story of the millions of people who have been impacted by the homeschool revolution. To find out more, visit classicalconversations.com/rocked today. One of the reasons that I really enjoyed my high school career and homeschooling in general was my ability to pursue my passions and the opportunity to work and make some money to put in our pocket. Just like many of you listening, we were a single income family. My dad was an aerospace engineer and my mom stayed at home. So getting some money to pay for gas or go to the movies or going to a thing that used to be called a mall where you go and buy things. I know you guys might not know about that anymore, but it used to be a building called a mall. And just opportunity to do that. So I started working probably when I was 14 or 15, just mowing lawns. When I was younger, they weren't paid positions, but working on political campaigns. And then one of the best experiences I had was being able to work as an engineering assistant. And I thought I wanted to be a computer engineer. And there was a small business owned by a Christian family that we knew. And when I was 16, I was able to go work 1 day a week during the school year and 5 days a week during the summer, and help them with their computer engineering and working on projects for small companies and even some Fortune 500 companies, from learning how to build computers, testing the programs that they were writing, and all sorts of different things. And it really gave me an appreciation for computer engineering, but it did let me know that I didn't want to be an engineer. And so when I got to college, a lot of my friends that I met there, they didn't know what they wanted to do, or they thought they wanted to do one engineering and switch to another one. And a lot of times when they switched degrees, it put their graduation back. And so not only was I able to earn money in college and kind of build up for college and build up my resume, but I also was able to save money because I didn't go down a path in college initially that I didn't finish. And so when I got to college, I knew I didn't want to do computer engineering. There was a number of engineering opportunities out there, and I ultimately picked industrial engineering as my major. And so I really enjoyed that. The college experience was pretty unique for me in the fact that was when my mom decided to start Classical Conversations full time. And so I was out of state at Clemson University, which is in South Carolina, and we were from North Carolina. And I got a call from my mom. It was my sophomore year. I had just paid tuition for that fall. And she said, "Hey, Dad's thinking about getting you a car." Which I thought, yeah, that's awesome, because I could use a vehicle. So I always had to bum rides because I didn't have one. But instead, your father quit his job so that I could try to make Classical Conversations a real organization. And you're going to have to pay for the rest of college yourself. Good luck. And that was pretty much the end of that phone call. I knew that student loans were an option, but I didn't want to get in a lot of student loan debt. And I had been thinking about interning or even doing something called a co-op, which was basically a commitment from you to intern for 3 different semesters. And so typically how it worked would be you'd work a semester, go to school semester, work a semester, go to school semester. These businesses were using it to, of course, recruit future employees as well as get inexpensive labor. The nice thing was, because of opportunity and the commitment, the pay was a little bit higher than your typical internships. And of course, being in engineering. So the pay was anywhere from like $15 to $18 an hour starting out. And most of the companies gave you a rate increase every time you came back. So I didn't have a really good GPA. I messed around a little bit too much my freshman year, really just nothing bad, but just didn't take some of my coursework seriously. Learned a good lesson. So I didn't have a high GPA, but I did have a very long and thorough engineering resume. And so when I applied for the jobs, I kind of expected to get one of the lower paying jobs. So I knew I had to pay for college and I couldn't be picky, but I also was hoping to get one of the higher paying jobs, because even at a $14 or $15 an hour job, it was going to be difficult for me to pay for all the expenses. And of course, I even worked during the school year as well to help buy food and pay for books and things of that nature. So I thought I was going to get one of the lower paying jobs, and you kind of interview. But one of the higher paying jobs was with Ethicon, which is a Johnson & Johnson company, and they make sutures and needles. And it was the highest paying job, nearly $18 an hour starting out as a sophomore. And I applied for it. And I don't know that I put my GPA on my resume because that was not a differentiator for me, but I did have 2 pages of actual engineering work from high school, nearly a full year and a half of actual engineering experience. And so that put me over the top. And of course, by the grace of God, I got the highest paying job. That still didn't really help cover all the expenses. I had some student loan debt, but I also had really good friends and people that came into my life to help me out. I rented rooms. My friends typically walk-in closets. They would let me stay there for not much money during the school year. And since I was only there for a semester, they wouldn't make me sign on to the full year lease. So that saved me money. When I was at my co-op, I met some locals that I was friends with, and they had an internship program for high school students. And I ended up staying with one of the high school kids' families one of the semesters and slept on his top bunk when I was co-oping. So just a lot of sacrifice and trying to just get things done to pay for school. So it took me a little bit longer than I anticipated. It took me about 5.5 years from entering to graduate, but I did spend nearly 2 years co-oping. Like I said, typically co-op for 3 semesters. I actually added on an extra summer to get some extra money to help pay for college and was able to graduate with not much debt. I did have a few phone calls from my mom asking if she could borrow money from me so she could go buy inventory for a homeschool convention and sell some books and then pay me back, of course. But I would tell her, Mom, my friends call their parents for money, not vice versa. And it was definitely interesting times. And I'm better because of that. Are you looking for the perfect books to read aloud with the whole family? Senators of Rome and Exploring the Heavens with Uncle Paul are 2 of the newest releases in the Copper Lodge Library series and have been designed to accompany Foundation Cycle 2 content. If you love learning about science, history, and how they work together in God's greater plan, these books are for you. Find them in the Classical Conversations bookstore. When I graduated, I ended up working at UPS, and I was a engineer there for about 11 months in their management training program. I learned a lot and really enjoyed my time there, but the hours weren't what I wanted, and I got an opportunity to work in manufacturing, which is something I enjoyed doing for a company called Easy Gardener, and I worked there for 5 years. Sometimes people ask me, did you always know you wanted to work for Classical Conversations? Well, Classical Conversations wasn't really a place I could work. It didn't exist in the manner that we know it now. When I was in high school, we had 3 or 4 directors in the state of North Carolina. By the time I graduated college, I wasn't getting phone calls from my parents anymore asking for money from me. So they were able to start paying themselves a little bit and, covering their own bills. So it wasn't a thing for me, but like I said, I really enjoyed being homeschooled. And one of the things I always enjoyed too was helping other people flourish. Industrial engineering is all about making people's lives better, saving money, and increasing quality of products or services, and doing that from an engineering perspective. So that was one of the things I was able to do at Easy Gardener. Not only was I able to triple the production output of some of their lines of products, I was also able to increase the average pay of the line workers from $8 an hour to $12 an hour, and put in a system where if the company did better, they did better at the same time. And so that's something that I look forward to doing at Classical Conversations and have done, and as well as just doing that in my life for the nonprofits that I support and nonprofits that I'm on the board of, as well as something I want to do in this podcast is bring on people that help you live a better life and a more flourishing life. Because I think of it this way: if you're a Christian going to heaven, our goal is to be ambassadors here on earth and to help bring heaven here on earth and bring people to heaven. And for those who aren't Christians and those who may not ever become Christians, the Bible says they're not going to heaven. They're going somewhere else. So this is the closest to heaven they'll ever be. And I want to make sure that this short time on earth is a blessing to them. And so really making sure that not only are we doing a great job as an organization, but that we're benefiting the people around us. And so as I was working at Easy Gardener, it became kind of apparent to me that making widgets faster and helping those individuals that work there live a better life was good, but it wasn't something that was fulfilling to me. And at that time, Classical Conversations had grown to roughly 40,000 students. and was in 30 or 40 states at that time. And my mom and my dad were looking forward to my youngest brothers entering middle school and high school and wanting to spend time with them. So it became apparent in 2012 after I helped out for a couple years with the homeschool testing services product line. It made sense for me to come and start working at Classical Conversations. And so I spent a year or so with my mom and just learning from her all the things that she did on the operations side. I actually took a essentials and foundations class since I didn't know much about those. And, I was 26 years old or so, and sitting with 7, 11-year-olds or 10-year-olds in a foundations class in Irmo, South Carolina. It's fun to see a lot of those students graduate here over the last couple of years, and then did the essentials class in the afternoon as well. So I wasn't a memory master. I did write all the essentials papers, but probably closer to a fourth grade level. I will say that I learned more in essentials than I did in any or all of my English classes at university. So that's a little bit about me and about my background and kind of how I approach life. So I hope that frames things up for you as we have future conversations with other people. Most of these podcasts, we hope to end with a little bit of the latest headlines and maybe how to approach them from a classical tools perspective, as well as having episodes that end with a technology update and talking about cryptocurrencies and cryptology and that technology with CC graduate Will McQuarrie. And he's also part of our CC Plus program, where you can take challenge classes and earn college credit, as well as we have a master's program for moms and dads. And we're working on AAs and BAs as well, hopefully to launch in the coming years and have custom programs where if you didn't finish college as an adult, we can help build a relationship with our partners for you to finish that if that's something that you want to do. So as we wrap up today's lesson, today's monologue, what did we practice together out of those 5 tools? So out of the 5 core habits of grammar, we told a story. So we practiced storytelling and told you a little bit about my background and focusing on my college and high school experience. On the 5 common topics of dialectic, we talked about relationship. You learned that young kids, I didn't have classical conversations the whole time I grew up. And so we have curriculum experts, moms and dads and CC graduates who write our curriculum. And that's not something that I'm necessarily involved in. So you learn the relationship that I'm focusing on improving our operations and helping Classical Conversations be the best organization it can be. And we have a great group of parents that are writing our curriculum for us. Of course, that's led by Lee, my mom, as well as Heather Shirley and Jen Greenholt, just to name a few people. We also practiced the 5 canons of rhetoric, Memoria. I shared my story in storytelling and really pulled from my memories of that high school and college experience. Finally, of course, we also practice delivery. And like I said at the beginning, this is a new adventure for me. So I'm going to be learning right alongside you. And I'm sure that I will be better on my 10th podcast than I am here at the first one, and better at the 100th than I am at my 10th. Because in the classical model, you have to just practice. And so I thank you for coming along this journey with me. We've got some exciting upcoming shows. First show with the guest will be my mom, Lee Bortins, founder of Classical Conversations. And I'm excited to talk to her about why she started Classical Conversations, why she maybe trusted me to continue on her legacy. And then we have Mike Sharrow. He's CEO of the C12 group, which is a roundtable group for Christian CEOs who want to run their business in a way that honors God. I've known Mike for a long time. We've been members of C12. That was one of the very first things I did when I became CEO, is I knew I didn't know a whole lot, and I knew I needed a peer group to help me out. And so we'll hear from him and the concept of business as a ministry. We also have an upcoming show with Lisa McLeod, who wrote Noble Selling Purpose, which is a book our entire team has read, and we give to our sales and support team members as well. And we'll be speaking with Al Lopez, president and co-founder of the Best Christian Workplace Institute. And so you can see that these initial episodes were kind of focused on the work as worship movement and what that means and what that means to classical conversations and what that means to you as a homeschooler, and should really benefit all of you to listen. So make sure you subscribe, make sure that you share this episode with a friend if it's something that you enjoyed, and I look forward to going on this journey together. In fact, you can listen to my interview with Lee Bortins and Mike Sherrill right now, and then we'll drop our shows with Lisa and Al in the next 2 and 4 weeks. So we'll be launching this podcast off with 3 episodes and then doing 1 every other week. So make sure that you tune in, and God bless. Have a great day.
Thank you for listening to Refining Rhetoric with Robert Bortins. Want more? Make sure to subscribe so you won't miss an episode. You can also follow us on social media to continue the conversation, and visit classicalconversations.com.